Hey guys, welcome to the Tech Career Booster channel. In this video, we're going to be talking about the skills you need to become a software developer. If you want to become a software developer, but you don't want to put too much efforts where it's not needed, stay with me and I'm going to help you to learn which skills you actually need to learn, which ones you should put efforts on, and which ones you should not care too much about. My name is Jos Palladin. I've been working as a software developer, dev leader, dev manager. Also, I've been teaching students undergrad, postgrad, TAFE course. So stay with me and let's see which skills you're going to need. In this video, we are going to be covering why you need to learn new skills, what are the essential tech and soft skills for devs, and how to learn it all, where you can find the content and how you can learn by yourself or by a formal course, whatever. So first things first, why? You always should be asking yourself why you need something. And it sounds pretty obviously, but it's actually not. First reason why you need to learn skills to become a software developer, or even if you are already a software developer, you have to continue learning. It's to actually meet the industry demands. The industry is always evolving and they are always requiring more and more knowledge from the devs. Devs themselves, they are actually creating new technology for other devs to use. So you have to keep up, you have to keep learning always. And that's the main reason you have to learn new skills. Which skills are that? We're gonna cover in this video. Also, you should be adapting yourself to all the advancements in the technology world. It's always evolving. And if you can't adapt yourself, you are not going to be able to keep up in your career as a software developer. Another important thing as a software developer is your capability to actually resolve problems. So your problem solve capabilities are a very important thing, and you have to keep up with that. And that's a very important reason why you should be learning new skills that's going to enhance your problem solving capabilities. It's not always going to keep you up to date, and it's going to keep your brain to stay healthy and to keep working as it's supposed to work. Another thing is actually to facilitate the communication. The IT field, it has a lot of jargons and things, a lot of acronyms, and you have to learn and know that when you are speaking to someone. Imagine if you go to an interview and they start to ask questions using jargons and acronyms and you don't know what does that mean. You even can't communicate. So communication is a very important thing. And you have to learn these skills to learn how to communicate properly in the field. Also, it's going to accelerate your career progression. As more as you know, as faster you're going to progress forward. And last but not least, for personal fulfillment and confidence, it's actually going to fulfill you if you feel confident and if you know what you are doing. When you're going to apply for a position, you are going to feel way better than if you sort of don't know or if you are not confident in your knowledge about what you are going to do in that position specifically. So those are the main reasons why you should be learning new skills. Next question is going to come is, what are those skills? What are the essential skills you're going to need and which ones are not essential? I've been seeing many students, especially when they try to learn by themselves, spend a lot of time trying to figure out what's important to learn and what's not important. Or sometimes they start to learn something, they think it's important, but it's actually not. So let's dive straight into that. First thing, programming languages and web development. That's the first thing you're going to have to be familiar with. We have many programming languages at the moment in the market. I've listed here just a few of them for you to be aware of. but there are many more, so don't be tied to these ones. Those are just an example. You can see, for example, Python. You have to learn Python if you're going to go for data science or machine learning. You have to learn JavaScript if you're going to become a web developer. You have to learn Java if you go to enterprise systems. If you're going to go for mobile development, you have to learn Swift or Kotlin or even Flutter or anything you're going to need for develop for mobile. If you want to become a web developer, other than JavaScript, you also have to learn HTML, CSS, JavaScript frameworks. All those languages and web development stuff, they are needed depending on which area you want to be working on. And that's going to lead us to another question. What areas are there? That's not what this video is about, but I'm going to make another video another day talking about what areas you can go. But if you want to go for any of the area, you're going to need to learn how to program. And the language is really going to depend on what you think you're going to be doing. Most of the devs, they focus on one language first. And if you don't know any language at the moment, you're going to start to learn that. My suggestion is probably JavaScript. That's probably the first language you should be learning, because that's going to open doors for many others. And the other ones, they're similar in certain things, not everything, but few things they are similar. So it's going to help you to actually learn the second and third language. Other than that, you also should be learning data structures and algorithms. That's something most of the students, they ignore. They don't want to learn that because they think that's BS. But that's actually one of the most important skills you're going to need. I've been hiring devs for a long time already, and the biggest deficiency I can see when I'm interviewing someone is actually regards to data structure and algorithms. Usually the young guys, they come and learn a programming language, but they sort of forget or they ignore the data structure and algorithms. And that's what's going to really change your mind. That's what's going to blow your mind. First thing, you have to understand the problem. What needs to be stored, what needs to be manipulated, what needs to be presented. You have to structure your thinking in a way you're going to understand what the user needs, how you're going to capture that, how you're going to store that, how you're going to manipulate the data, and how you're going to present it. Most of people fail on understanding the basic principles of computing. And that, for me, that's the most important skill. You have to understand that structure to actually become a good software developer. Another thing is actually designing a solution. Algorithms are step-by-step procedures to actually solve a problem. So the first thing is actually understand the problem. And the second thing is design a step-by-step solution. So you're going to be able to tell the computer how to solve that issue, how to solve that problem. After that, you're going to have two concerns. Basically, you're going to have many concerns, but the most important ones, they are time and space. You're going to have to be concerned about time efficiency and space efficiency. How fast your algorithm is going to run. Is your solution good enough for a computer from today? Probably it's going to be, but you're going to have to think of efficiency. You're also going to have to think of space. Are you using too much space or not to store that thing? Other than that, you're also going to have to learn specific data structure and algorithms like arrays, stacks, queues, hash tables, sort algorithms, search algorithms. There are many already defined structures and algorithms you have to be aware of so you can apply them in the best way as you can. And last but not least, you have to understand real-world applications and how they structure their data and how they create their algorithms. For example, Google, imagine Google search. Imagine how big is that. The Google search is it's a huge amount of data. It's a huge amount of procedures it has to go through when you type something and hit search. Because it has to find you, like quickly as that, it has to find you the best results. So can you imagine how is the data structure behind it? Google has made many articles trying to explain that, but obviously it is a business secret. They don't explain everything, but they try to explain how do they store that. It's very important to understand it. Also, social media. How do you think Facebook or Instagram, how do you think they actually store the data? How do you think they connect people with? How do you think they understand what someone wants to see, what someone likes and what someone dislikes? So the algorithm can show you the proper ads. Those sorts of things you have to be curious about. At least you have to try to understand it. And that's a very important skill. I would say curiosity is a very important characteristic for someone to have as a software developer. Also, if we progress, you're also going to find a need to learn database management. And when we talk about database, we have basically two things to look after. One is SQL database and NoSQL database. And then those are the main things in the market at the moment. If I briefly touch that, that's a whole subject by itself. But if I briefly touch that, I can tell you guys like SQL database are organized and referential database. So we're going to have a reference for tables and records between themselves. So we're going to have tables and records referencing each other, and they're going to query them through a SQL language. So it's structured query language. In the opposite hand, we have what they call NoSQL. So there's no structured query language for that. And the data is also not structured. It has a structure, but it's a different structure. It's not tables and reference, so it's not a relational database. First ones are called relational database. The second ones are non-relational database, because basically you don't have a relation between the data within the database. And when I say no relation, it means you can actually duplicate the data. It depends on what you're working on and what we're working with. You can actually duplicate the data, which was completely avoided by the relational database. So it's two different concepts which you should be very aware of, and you should be learn deeply those concepts. And then it's going to bring you to the database management systems, which I can talk about a few of them here, like MySQL, PostgreSQL. They are the relational ones. We also have Microsoft, IBM DB2. We have many relational database management systems. They are all sort of the same thing. They are built for the same purpose. They're not the same thing, but they are built for the same purpose, and they work in a similar way using the same SQL language to query data. In the other hand, we have the MongoDB, DynamoDB, and all other non-SQL database, which doesn't share the same language to query. They all have their own way to query data and to save data. And that's another important concept to learn. If you have to prioritize one, probably you're going to have to be more focused on the relational ones. Despite it's the old one, it's still most of softwares in the market at the moment, they still using relational database. It's still rare and hard to find something using NoSQL if you go to a company or when you actually find a job in a dev team. So if you're going to be part of the team, it's very likely you're going to find the companies using relational database. And then we can jump to the other skill you're going to have to be learning, which is testing and debugging. That one, if you're going to become a dev, you don't have to be very deep on that. You have to at least know what is that and what it's used for. but you're not going to become a tester unless you want to go to the tester area. But devs and testers, they are usually complementary. They're going to help each other, but they are not going to do the same thing. They actually should not be doing the same thing. If you write a piece of code, you should not be testing that piece of code, or you should not be the only one testing that. Obviously, you have to test your code, but you should not be the only one testing that piece of code. So that's why we have QA, which stands for quality assurance. Usually, it's someone who is part of the team, and that person is going to actually create the test cases, test scenarios for every single thing the devs are going to do. And they're going to apply those test cases, they're going to run the test scenarios, and they're going to try to break the software you are creating. That's the workflow, basically. You create some piece of software, and then the testers are going to come and try to break it. And then we can come with automated tests, which you also should be aware of. It's not very important that you go deeper on that unless you want to become a tester, but you should be aware how to automated tests works. Especially one type of test, which is called the unit test. That test should be done by developers. So unit tests are very important. If you have to learn something about testing and you have to choose only one thing to learn, I would say you should learn unit testing. The other things, they are more for testers, but you should at least be aware of what it is and how it works. And then it leads me to the next thing you should be learning, which are other skills. I've grouped them as other skills because they are not as important as the ones we mentioned before, but you should be aware of them as well. I would say it's not that they are not important. They are important, but they are not big as the other ones. So the other ones, you're probably going to spend a lot of time learning them because they are huge and there are a lot of things to learn in that area. While these ones, which are called other skills, you're probably not going to spend too much time because they are very quick to learn, probably. Let's start with version control, for example. The most used at the moment is Git. So if you have to choose only one, I would say go for Git. But if you have the time, you should at least be investigating SVN as well, which is an old way of doing version control, but still being used by many companies currently. What is a version control? A version control is something which actually saves all the versions of your code. So let's say you start to code something, you write a very nice piece of code and you save it today. Then you're going to come to it next week and you have to change it to enhance it or to fix a bug. You're going to save your change. And then you're going to do the same thing the week after and the week after. And after 3 months, you have done so many changes. But let's say you have introduced a bug and you don't know where it was introduced. So you can backtrack that and see what was the previous version. What was the version last month? What was the version 3 months ago? So you can backtrack your change and see when a bug was introduced, or what change you have done, which actually breaks something. That's why the version control is important. Another thing why version control is important is because when you work as a team, many people can actually work in one file. So you can have 2 or 3 or more devs working in the same file or in the same area of the software, and you don't want to break each other's job. So understanding version control is making you be a better team player. So you're going to work better with your team. It's never too much to say problem-solving skills. You have to be always enhancing your problem-solving skills. You have to try to see as much problems as you can and how they were solved, and try to be quicker and better on resolving problems. That's the biggest difference between a good dev and a bad dev. If you want to become a bad dev, don't solve problems or solve the problems badly. If you want to become a good dev, the best thing to do is be very quick on solving problems. Also, you're going to have to learn agile methods. Agile methodologies are used by most of the companies currently. So you have to be aware, how does that work? Why it's important, why it's not. And what's the process behind it. You don't need to be an agile master, like Scrum master or something, but you need to actually understand the process so you can talk to people, you can communicate better, and you can be part of a team. Another important concept here is actually continuous integration and continuous delivery. And that's going to lead us for the first acronym you're going to see, like CI and CD. That's what they call it. It is important to understand how we integrate systems and how we deliver that. Because one thing is actually code something, the other thing is actually delivering that. How we're going to deploy it, how people are going to use it, where you're going to deploy it to. And that's going to lead us to the next concept, which is cloud hosting and cloud computing. What's cloud computing? That's most of the apps you're going to find, most of the applications you're going to find in the market the moment they are on the cloud. In one way or another, they are in the cloud. So you are going to have to understand what cloud is. What's AWS? What's Azure? What's Google Cloud? What cloud applications are. We have cloud native applications. So it depends on what you're going to create. And I would say the most modern way to create apps is actually cloud native apps. So if you want to become a dev, you have to learn what's a cloud native application, but you should not ignore what is like the old way, which is not cloud native. I would say like it's one standalone application. You also should not ignore that because that's most of the apps currently in the market. If you're going to work for someone, it's very likely you're going to find like a standalone app and not a cloud native app. But it's changing. The market is always evolving as we talk. And that's one of the biggest change happening over the last few years. Those are all the essential technical skills you're going to have to learn. But another important thing is actually the soft skills. That's the most ignored skills by the devs. You should not be ignoring that. You have to understand communication, clear and effective communication, tech and non-tech language. That's the most important thing, and that's what's gonna make you stand out in the crowd, is actually if you can talk to non-tech people. That's where most of the devs fail currently. They go to a meeting, they have to talk to someone. It's either the product owner, it's either the management of the company, it's either someone from another team, HR team, financial team, whatever. They're going to talk to those people and they can't understand or they can't communicate in non-tech language. They start to talk about cloud, they start to talk about SQL, they start to talk about fields and database, and people don't understand what they are talking about, and then they can't understand each other. So if you can communicate clear and effective, and you can explain to people, to non-technical people, what the technical things are, you're going to stand out. That's a very important skill to have. Also, it's important to be a good teamwork player, actually. You have to be a very good team player. You have to be able to collaborate with your own team and also with other teams in order to achieve the results. So if you can't collaborate, if you can't work as a team, you basically can't be a dev. Most, I would say all the companies which have a dev team, they work as a team. It's very rare, I would say it's almost impossible to find a company with only one dev or to create a real good software with only one dev, or you're going to do everything by yourself. And also, it's very hard to do everything by yourself. It's such a good thing to have a team to work with. But on working with a team, you should not try to be the star of the team or the best. You should always think of the best thing for the team as a team. The collaboration, the communication, everything you can do to make the team better, not yourself only. And that's going to bring us to the next soft skills, which is adaptability. You have to be able to adapt and evolve with each environment you go to. So if you are in your team, you have to adapt to the team. If you change companies, you have to be able to adapt to other company, to the other team. Another important soft skill is actually attention to details. You have to be very cautious and pay a lot of attention to all the details of the stuff. If someone asks you to do something, you have to do what you were asked for, but you also have to think of what you were not asked for. What's involved in here, what the users really want. If you have to talk to someone and try to bring something they didn't see, that's going to be helpful. And that's going to bring us back to the other one, which is being a very good team player. So you're going to help people if you bring something they were not able to see. Obviously, you have to be humble and not try to say people were dumb because they didn't see something. You're going to have to just bring that as something you discovered or you were thinking of, but try to not enforce it. And last but not least, another very important soft skill is actually time management. As a software developer, you're going to have to be multitask. You're going to have to be doing a lot of things in parallel or at the same time. You're going to be working in simultaneously projects, and you're going to have tight deadlines. And you have to be very good on that. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to deliver anything. You're just going to freeze. You're going to stop and can't do anything if you can't manage your time. You have to be able to define priorities, get the first one, tackle that, go to the second one, tackle that, manage your time, and do everything which is needed. Those are all the skills basically you need to become a software developer. They are not the only ones. Someone can come to me and say, okay, but how about this? How about that? You didn't mention the other thing. This video is not supposed to cover everything, but it's supposed to cover the most important ones. I would say if you have all those skills I just mentioned, I'm pretty sure you're going to be able to find a position and start to work as a software developer. It's either as an enterprise application developer, or as a web developer, or a mobile application developer. You're going to be able to apply for any job if you have those skills we just talked about. But then the next question you're probably going to ask for is, okay, how do I learn that? How you can learn EO? Where you can start? Which options you have? Well, you are gonna have to know yourself first. What's your preferred way to learn? At the moment, we have many ways in the market someone can actually learn something. And when we talk about dev or software development, we have either formal education, which is like what most of people know and do. Like when you talk about learning a new profession, the first thing which comes to people is, okay, I have to go to the formal education. I have to go to the school. And depends on which level you are, you're going to go to a professional course like TAFE, or you can go to undergrad course in the uni, or you can go to even a postgrad course. Depends on what you are looking for. That's the formal education. But to be honest, that's not my preferred way, not for software development. Because the formal education, it usually takes a while. It's going to take you at least 2 years in a TAFE course. It's going to take you 3 years or more in the uni. And depends on the postgrad course you're going to get. You can take up to 2, 3, 4 years, depends on what you're going to do. If you're going to do like a postdoctorate, it can take you 4 years to do. So it doesn't make much sense for me to become a software developer, to spend all that time in the formal education. Then you have the second option here, which is boot camps. What boot camps are? Boot camps for software development is a very intensive learning boot camp where you go, or you do that online or in person, but you're gonna focus all your time over a short period of time to learn that thing. Usually boot camps are between 3 months, 2 months, no more than that, 2 to 3 months. But then you're gonna be studying every day, let's say for 2 months or for 3 months, to learn usually one language or one area, for example, web development. So you're going to learn HTML, CSS, JavaScript in a bootcamp. Or it can be like a mobile app bootcamp. So you're going to learn Kotlin, or you're going to learn Swift for iOS. Basically, you're going to focus all the time on learning that language. And then if we come back to the skills, you're going to notice like learning a language is only one part of the skills. It doesn't cover everything. So the bootcamps, they are not able to cover everything you need to learn because you have a way more to learn. And because the bootcamps, they are fast, they focus on the language, which is what's going to be required at the beginning, but that's not the only thing. So you can't become a dev only in the bootcamp. Usually you are not able to go out of a bootcamp and find a job. It's still missing something. You're still going to miss some skills. And also because it's too fast, when you finish that, probably you're not going to be able to say, oh, I've learned it. You have an idea about that, but you didn't deeply learn that. So basically, formal education, it's too long. Boot camps, they can't cover everything, and it's too fast. Then we have the third option, which are online course. I would put the third and the fourth options together, because online course, I would call those the short course, which you can do through Coursera, through Udemy, all these short courses and short platforms you have for doing a course, which can be quick. You can do that in a couple of weeks or in a month or whatever. You're gonna do that in your own terms, and that's gonna be self-learning as well. So you can do those courses, or you can learn through books, through articles, or just through coding things by yourself. You can actually open a text editor and start to code on it as soon as you know what to do. And how you're gonna know what to do, you can grab that from a tutorial, from a YouTube video, wherever you want. So self-learning and online course, in my opinion, those two together are the best way. The best way for learning all those skills I mentioned to you are actually through online short course. So you're going to know what you are missing. From those skills we just listed, you're going to look for, I want a database management system course. Then you're going to find an online course on Udemy. And then you're going to say, no, now I need to learn algorithms. So you can find an Udemy algorithm course and you can go through that. Now I need to learn JavaScript. Then you can find JavaScript course and learn that. Learning those things are gonna actually be the first thing to be able to work in a project, which is gonna enhance your learning. So the last two options here, they are still learning options, but they are the after steps, I would say. So after you learn the main ones, after you start your learning, then you can actually join a project. And when we say join a project, it can be either your own project, you can create your own website, you can create your own mobile app, or you can join open source project. For example, you can get any software out there which is open source and you can collaborate with the project, especially if you speak more than one language. For example, if you speak English and you're coming from like another country, if you're an immigrant, you probably have your own mother language. For example, my mother language is Portuguese and coming from Brazil. One easy way for me to be involved in an open source project probably would be translating the project from English to Portuguese. It's going to be very, very easy to me. And that's the first step to be involved with the project. Is that coding? No, it's not coding, but you're going to be involved with the community. And being involved with the community, people are going to know you, and that's going to help you even to actually find a job later on. But it's going to help you if you're learning. You're going to learn how the system works, how the software works, how things are connected. So it's very, very important to be involved in a real project, in a project from the real world, not just an example. Because if you go to boot camps or even the formal education, you're going to be doing a lot of examples, but you can't actually work in something real, something people are using. And that's for me is crucial. You have to learn it. You have to be involved in the project to learn like the real life. And also networking. Networking is another very good way to learn. after you know the first steps. So you can go to meetups, or you can meet two people who are also software developers, and you can share ideas. You can share with a friend, I'm doing that, and how would you do that? What's the best way of doing this? So you're going to be asking questions and talking with the community and talking to people about software development. And that is also a very good way to learn. And I would say that summarize all the ways you can actually learn how to become a software developer. That's the path you should go. And after you do that first step, and after you do these things, which is going to take you some time, to be honest, I can't believe you can do that in 2 months, as a bootcamp says. But I also don't believe it's going to take you like 2 years as a formal education. My time frame, I would say it's 6 months to maybe 1 year. Depends on your skills and how much time you have to actually put the effort on that. But from 6 months to 1 year is enough to actually learn whatever you need to learn to become a software developer and find your first job. But after finding your first job, after learning these first steps or these baby steps, what's next? The next thing in a dev life is actually continued learning. You're never going to stop learning. Never, ever. You're always going to be learning. The technology is always evolving, even after you finding a job or even after working in a team. That team is going to need new technologies. That company is going to need new stuff. And you're going to have to be learning and learning and relearning and learning again. And that's going to lead you to specializations, which can be formal or not formal. Usually when we talk about specialization, it's going to be in the formal education. So that's when you go to the uni and you get to a post-grad course, for example. But you can go to the market and find a certification as well. So we have many certifications currently, like AWS certifications, or you can have like Java certifications, many certifications. We have Microsoft certifications. That's going to help you to find a job, or that's going to help you to stand out in the crowd, and it's going to keep you up to date. It's going to help you to continue learning. So the continued learning is always going to happen. And another way to do that is actually having a mentorship. That's really going to depend on what you want to continue learning. Mentorship, I do not recommend to having that like for a long term. I do recommend a mentorship for a short term. So you can have a mentor for 6 months, for a year, to achieve a specific goal. But once you achieve that, you should not be counting on a mentor for everything you need. So the mentor is just like to point you to the right direction to achieve a specific goal. And guys, I think that cover all the options you have to learn and all the skills, or the minimum skills. I would not say all, but I would say the minimum skills you have to learn to become a software developer. And just to sort of motivate you guys, I can tell you at the moment, currently in Australia, we do have almost 10,000 positions available for software development. And that obviously it's including everything in regard to software development. It's about mobile apps, it's about web development, it's about enterprise development. So software development positions are found available on Seek. And it's on Seek only, like, the source of this information is actually Seek. So I found that on Seek website. We may have other positions not on Seek. I don't know where people are actually advertising the positions at these days. But yeah, Seek for sure is the biggest one. And how many people we're going to need to fill up those positions? You can be one of those. Just need to learn. So if that's your dream, if that's what you're pursuing, just go for it. Just start. You have to do the first step and start learning. Right? Thanks, guys. And thanks for watching. And I hope this video was helpful. These slides, they will get from Slides Go. And yeah, I just want to give the credits for these guys. Thanks. And yeah, thanks for watching. I hope this video was helpful. And if you need anything, leave your comments below, and I'm going to do my best to actually respond and help you all. See you next time.